Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Protecting the Nest. And today is October 25th, 2023. And we are joined today by Amber, Tara, and Carol. And I'm running the
Everybody.
board. This is Tyrone.
Hey, Tyrone.
Hey
Yeah,
everybody.
Eee,
nice
eee.
to have your
Eek,
beautiful
eek.
voice with us.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Speaking,
I want to say a big congratulations to John O'Loughlin because he
yes,
mentioned that he had PSA levels of 0.
Really, that's
Isn't
great.
that amazing?
yes.
And he still has to get his lymph checked out, but I think he's on a good path. And
Wow.
he's out touring as a on his opera. He's touring
Yes.
for a while, so he's going to get all kinds of resonant therapy.
I bet he's excited to know that there's actually, I don't want to call it a cure, but there's actually an antidote to what ails you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
partially the little bugs we have all in us that need to die off in order for our immune system to kick whatever is ailing us to the curb.
Yeah, and he had a lot of options, between Nick and Carmadoc and all the stuff we sent him, and he did a bunch of stuff. But so I think my take is that there are many options that can make you better. No matter what you have, there's a lot of options that
I
our
agree.
medical system is not looking at, and you just pick the ones
Purposely.
that fit into your life and work with what feels right. And there's you just support your immune system, and that's what isn't happening in the medical system is this other thing about antigens.
I think it's purposeful. It's like, how
Hmm.
do we make millions and billions of dollars in order to stay on top unless we can exploit something? It's the snake oil salesman. I'm not saying, like, I agree in surgery, like things that are super important, but some of the pharma that goes out there causes many more symptoms and doesn't get to the root of the issue, which is your immunity and particular macro and micronutrients that you need and the sun and just like the important things that I think our ancestors knew and was slowly ripped away, and then we were brainwashed into, no, we have to take this for this and this for this, then this for this for this, and
And
it
the
would
expert
replace
has to give it to you.
rosemary. Right, but
Yeah.
it replaces rosemary and oregano and
Hmm.
walnuts, and food is like healing, and they replace that with a generic snake oil that might help with like the pain or might help with some of the issues, but there's always been antidotes,
Yeah,
and
they
those were
synthesize them.
kicked.
I think that there are modern conveniences that make it easier to figure it out, especially, we a lot of us live in the north and we just don't get enough sun to have a good immune system. And so there's certain things that once you realize that if you just keep it up, same with vitamin C, we get it certain times of the year, but it can get low. So there supplements can really help, and plus a lot of other stuff. I think maybe it was the Fenben. Everybody suggested that to him, and he did it. Maybe it was that, which we wouldn't have known about, very long ago. But it's we do now, and it's a simple thing that comes from nature.
It's
Spirit
important.
bacteria. There's so
That's
many.
right. The macrophages.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what did you ladies what links did you send to Tyrone that you want to talk about? I'm
Well,
super
I
excited to
I
hear.
kind of thought Tara wanted to talk a little bit about
Well,
the
yeah.
fast acting cancer, so I sent some stuff, a couple things. What was one is just on propaganda. That was just a really nice little thing that I think was excellent. And then one was a little clip from JJ Cooey where they're really kind of solving that the antigens are causing the problem. And that it's just a little 4-minute clip too. So there's a couple things we can look at in this vein.
I want to layer something over what we're talking about, because obviously the antidotes and all the good boost 'em ups and vitamins and all that stuff, it's like whole conversations and lengthily ongoing conversations
Mhm.
actually that are in order. But just to apply like one of our overall things that, luckily we're coming in the right direction, but just for survival levels, one of the things that we always have to think about is access. Okay. Access is key. And that doesn't mean that access has to be super challenging, especially if you learn a lot, have a garden, you know. But of course, no man is an island, so we're not going to do everything ourselves. So, when these great companies like the Fenben and different stuff, and their Lithuania, I think their lab is in. It's like, hold on to the information of the labs, the phone numbers, you know what I mean? Or even just like the appreciation of like something as generic as like the vitamin shop or whatever, that you can actually like access these things. And like in our minds, and in our actions, we have to apply the sourcing. Because if we just set up, have like trade route, and then if that doesn't work out, we have this back up and and then it's like, we really, on all levels, we need to get away from this like one belt and road, blah blah blah, whatever, you know what I mean? So I just want to highlight that access. And it doesn't even have to be like a panic thing, because when we think about these methods of survival and surviving our family, it's just like brushing our teeth and eating right and getting good night's sleep. Like, we want it to just come naturally
Well,
and not have to take like a super lot of effort to just like do.
Well, Tara, to that point, I think what people don't realize is we're sometimes, when you look at it from the standpoint of someone in Davos who wants this new world order, right? And they've been going for it. Why wouldn't they grab each side? What I mean is, people were either called communist or fascist. They were in control of both of those things. And whatever you chose is what they labeled you, and you were going to end up in the same place. The same thing with the Five Eyes old world order, wanting that new world order, and the Belt and Road Initiative. That same group, no matter what side you choose, you're going to end up with one world government, one world. And instead of doing like America coming first, because we live here, making sure we're handling our business, we're closing our border, we're handling things to keep getting these dangerous drugs off the street where people are dying from fentanyl all the time, that we're dealing with the medical tyranny. We cancel out the NGOs and the foundations that are really destroying everything, because they've got their money in all of our politicians' pockets, and they're controlling the narratives of both sides. And not be hyper polarized, but only look for facts. And I find myself always jumping from both sides of the aisle, both sides of the argument. Here's where all the people who have decided that they can be called communists because they know they're not, but they choose this camp. And here's the people that are being called, MAGA terrorists, or these weird, far right crazies, and jumping back and forth. What's interesting is everyone's saying the same thing, and everyone's against the New World Order.
Yeah.
So it's very funny that everyone thinks they're fighting against it by pushing against the other side, but the people in charge want to put us right where they want us, and we're falling for it. And so I think, instead of being emotional and being tugged and pulled and defined, be unpredictable. As researchers and truth tellers, you should be jumping all over the place, not giving your heart, not giving who you are in your soul, but really being a participant, talking to people, looking them in the eye, shaking their hand, hugging them, so they know that they can count on you, and you're looking out for everyone's best interest because you're looking for the truth. And in that, be unpredictable. Don't let them label you. Don't let them shove you in a space. Don't let them shove you and define you, because that's what has caused, in my opinion, the downfall each and every time you see big failures and horrific situations pop up. It's because everyone was defined, and then they went to their corners and they battled each other, and they couldn't see the forest from the trees. And so, be unpredictable would be my October into November phrase.
Oh, I love that, Amber. And I think it was fun to be in New Orleans because I think everywhere we went, we talked to people, and there was a lot of really good responses. I think we're in a different place right now where you can talk to people and people are more open to some of the stuff that they were afraid of. They're afraid to hear because it put you in this box like you're talking about. And so that was really good to observe down there. Plus, it was so
Yeah,
interesting.
and you see a good amount of it, Carol, where you are. Like on the left, I see a mix because if I go into the suburbs, I'm going to see more on the right. And here in the city, I'm going to see more on the left. And it's interesting when you're diving in, everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone's fear is the same, but their angle or how everything stays stagnant because they're blaming the other side. And so it's easy for that small group that wants to force us, they're in lockstep, taking us where they want us to take us, and we're battling one another, coming at each other like this while they're just scooting right on through. And and I've seen it. I'm like, wow. First, I had to observe it, then I had to process it, and then I had to think, okay, what can I do? Because everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone has the same fears, so we're all on the same page. We just don't know it. And we might
I agree.
scream over here or scream over here, but on the right, they're saying we need medical freedom. Well, not everyone, but we need medical freedom, but we need, for them to help our immune system. We're on the left, they're saying everyone needs healthcare. And so it's just the way that the news articles like taper it and tell them how they should feel is why those are their talking points, and they're hypnotized. So they'll say free everything because they're frustrated because prices have gone up exponentially, and the articles they're reading have made them say the only way that we can all get well and we don't deal with the crisis at hand is this. We're on the other side. It's, the GMOs are an issue. Like what are we doing with Bill Gates buying up all our land? And so everyone's saying the same thing, but because of what they're reading in the media,
Well,
they're fighting each other.
Yeah,
I
it
would
is
definitely say
crazy.
they're hypnotized. It almost doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's either the liberals or the Democrats or the Republicans. That's the only two choices I'll be seeing out there. It's always, even if it's non-politically related, it's like always Democrats. They're not really getting to what the real source of the problem is.
Well, they're getting a different feed. I think Amber's exactly right. But what is crazy is how they've always been anti-GMO, but now all the medications are GMO, and somehow that isn't sinking in. How completely crazy that
The
is.
stuff they're reading, Carol, is making them think that they have to be fighting against the conservatives because the conservatives want an expensive healthcare system that people can't afford, and they're dying in droves. And they've got them so drilled in on that, they can't see that sometimes what they're advocating to be free is poison and will
Right.
hurt people.
Exactly.
And that's why they're scaring them. People are getting killed. People are getting killed. They can't afford healthcare. They can't afford healthcare. So they're banging on about more healthcare, free healthcare, gimme, because that's their fear. And so they go into the fear and then they exacerbate it.
Well, that's really true. And I think one of the things that sort of percolated through this week to me was a big study about the Amish. And it was so interesting because there's like 400,000 Amish, and we don't get studies on their health, because if we did, we'd wonder, what the heck are we doing with our medicine? And it came out like that. It said the Amish children are 100% unvaccinated,
And no
and
autism.
chronic conditions barely exist, including autoimmune disease, heart disease, asthma, diabetes, ADHD, arthritis, cancer, and of course, autism. It's just barely there at all. And, so.
So, Carol, remember the charrette when everyone went to Pennsylvania and we cut out a day before? We went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Amish country. And we even took a train through the Mennonite areas. And if you saw, and they don't use GMOs, if you saw their fields of food, holy cow. You saw, oh my goodness, you saw bees buzzing. They have the good insects all throughout there. They've come up with systems that keep a lot of the fungus and a lot of the not beneficial bugs that are going to really stress out the plants. There's such a balance because they haven't messed up the soil.
Yeah, they
That
use
even the
wood
grass is
soil.
just like thick. It's like you could run your finger, like it's like thick mane of grass. And they're not out there chemicals and pouring
Mhm.
stuff. It's
Right.
just gorgeous. And
We
as
can
we were
do
going, I
that.
was like, holy moly.
And-
Honestly, that study is something that should be like continually held for people to compare it to. Because if people are like
Mhm.
worried, because you have kids, you want to do the right thing. People are saying over here, they're saying do this, over here, they're saying do this. But you can actually look at, cause and effect and say, look, none of these things and healthier people. So that's simple.
Yeah, and it
And
even, in terms of COVID, it even said that the survival rate of COVID was 90 times higher than anybody that got the vaccination.
Oh,
So,
Carol, you know what we found out when we went? Before we went, and then when we went there, we confirmed it. That Mennonite children are dewormed twice a year because they don't use those pesticides and things like
Mhm.
that. They do have to deal with sometimes eating something like usually with veggies, and so they do parasite cleanses. They literally clean out their children's body twice a year, and I think this would be a large reason why they don't have a lot of these issues. And they
Yeah,
do it
that,
naturally.
and they're
They
not
make it from
vaccinated.
scratch. Yeah, they
Yeah.
make the dewormers from scratch. And it's amazing.
Did you get a recipe?
No, I'm still looking for it. But they have links and it takes you to a link and then it tells you what's in it, but
Mhm.
not how much you put in
How to do
and what
it?
all
Yeah.
you do. Yeah, yeah. But
Well,
I'm looking. As soon as
I
I
bet
find it,
it's
I'll share.
there. Yeah, I think that there are real simple things that actually work, and I don't think we're saying we need to go back to horse and buggies, but I think there's a lot to be learned from their healthcare practices and farming. Obviously, that is, I think
Absolutely.
that's our answer. But it did say that why aren't there any reports in this thing I read? Why aren't there any reports about the Amish that we get to read about? And it said, because the report would be devastating to the narrative. It would show the CDC has been harming the public for decades and saying nothing and burying all the data. So that's why we don't hear about the Amish, but they're really successful in staying healthy. So we don't have to be afraid. I think even if people took all this stuff, John didn't take the shot, but he did get COVID really badly. Both of them did, on top of all the treatments he did take for prostate cancer. And, he's getting clear. He's getting better. He's singing. So, that's the lesson. We can pass that knowledge out.
I have a question, but I don't know if you guys know the answer. So, during the time when you guys just know, like I get behind on certain things, right? So at the time when a bunch of people were sharing good medical stuff on the emails or whatever, which I'm few and far between, I noticed that there was some that like Pete Ross was sending John.
Yeah.
So is there anything important there that we may be missing or something if you didn't see that email?
Well, there was a ton of stuff, and Karmadoc sent her entire folder on cancer. So there was a lot of stuff. And then John went through it with, I'm spacing his name, his friend, and Karmadoc too. They kind of evaluated the things. John went through it and picked the stuff that he felt seemed like it was going to help him the most and that would fit into his schedule, whether it was diet or it was a bunch of different stuff. And they evaluated it every week on Thursdays. And now they're stopped. The series is stopped, I think, because John is doing his singing. He's touring, so that's why it stopped. So maybe there'll be more follow-up. But it was a 4-week series, and he had sky high PSAs, and now he has 0. So something is right.
So let me tell you, here's what is really frustrating and sad is that there are so many people right this minute going through what he was given, those numbers, and they'll never get the information and they'll pass away.
Yeah, because they're told they're going to. I mean, he was told go home and die, so
And so
uh,
it's really like, thank it's a blessing that we all know each other. It's a blessing we were able to talk to one another, and there was a reason. Nothing happens that's not for a purpose and a reason, and we have to take those wins like, like a hidden blessing that pops out and goes, here, I was here all the time. Right. But we have to also not get too tired and not fall asleep on the job, because there's so many other people right this very minute afraid, and the negativity is in their mind. They have no idea except for what they've always done to treat it. And there are some that are told to just go home, and they're saying goodbye to their kids. They're like making videos. They're putting, like, they're stressed so they can get all the pictures of like every year that they were with their child, holding their child. And like, these are people 30, 40, 50, 60 that are like saying goodbye because no one is sharing this info. Well, there are people sharing, but there are entities out there making sure that they never find out. And that to me is so disgusting. And if somebody out there hears this and they're making money pushing away any kind of like healing, measures for some of these diseases, all because those foundations and stuff make a lot of money, like, and they want to keep raising money and pledging money, because why would you stop? I think that, they need to consider what's actually going on in their soul, because, I know a lot of people right now who are scared to death, and they've been told, well, we'll see if this works. If it doesn't, we'll have to talk again. And they know exactly what that means, and they're dealing with this every day. So thank God John is, and this will be an antidote. Maybe we are able to help.
John wasn't open earlier, like March 2020. He'd already been through the first rounds and was starting to do chemo or radiation or something. At that time, he was really afraid. And I tried to get him to open up to some of the stuff, and he just, nope, I'll do it my way. And he was going to listen to his doctor, who he likes. But now that the doctor said there's no hope for you, he was willing to hear it. So, that
There's no hope when you say there's no hope.
exactly. I think you can convince yourself you're going to die, and then you
That's
can
a
die.
terrible thing to. Oh, I just,
But also, I think the algorithm was anything vaccine that would make somebody vaccine hesitant was knocked out. That was insidious, really insidious, because it, all kinds of just normal things that any normal person would do weren't considered. That it was the craziest thing. And I think that algorithm is still going on.
Just getting more robust. I feel like it's the conspiracy too big to indict,
Well, it's getting indicted, but it was really disappointing. I think there's a court case from like Missouri and Louisiana, I think, some states close around where you're from, Tyrone, that questioned that, being able to knock out those ideas. And there was a stay saying, okay, the government can't take it out. The big companies can't take it out anymore. And that stay was lifted. So it was undone. The good saying you can't block people's free speech got lifted. So not good.
By who now?
By a judge. They appealed it. And so the first appeal said you can't go above the Constitution, and so this is not right. And then the next appeal said, oh yeah, if it's for the greater good, go ahead. So we still got to fight.
Greater good. Greater good.
I know we got sucked in again. What are the links? I want to make sure we don't have to stop the show when we haven't got to any of the links.
Well,
Amber's cracking the whip on time.
I want to see what you guys are sharing. I'm excited.
Okay, well, you could, Tyrone. Do you have the one about the propaganda?
That's the one from Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, that one was. It was kind of what we were talking about. What Amber brought up at the beginning. I think it was our serendipity.
Okay, let's see what he has to say.
Yeah.
Weapons of mass disinformation. Yesterday, horrific news broke the global internet. A rocket blew up a children's hospital in Gaza, killing 500 people.
Well, do y'all hear this? Because I
That
don't.
was the unbiased headline. On one side, reports are that Israel fired the missile at the children's hospital, killing 500 people. On the other side, reports were that Hamas misfired a missile, blowing up a children's hospital, killing 500 people. Israel releases footage of a Hamas missile strike gone wrong. Hamas releases footage from a different angle showing an Israeli plane above when the hospital explodes. The news spread like wildfire, hitting all corners of the earth. Riots and protests in multiple countries angered about the news of attack on a children's hospital. Who is right and who is wrong? Neither. The hospital still stands. A rocket landed in the parking lot. 30 to 50 people are injured and or dead, but not the 500 originally reported. What would happen if the media and influencers and independent journalists just waited 24 hours until information is verified before running to their keyboards and posting? I get it. Clicks and views economy. The early posters get the most virality. But this is people's lives. And you aren't posting anything original, just sharing unvetted info as if it's fact. It's dangerous. Last Friday, a 6-year-old Palestinian child was stabbed 26 times and killed by the family's landlord. You Muslims must die, he screamed, while choking the mom and subsequently killing the child. All this from the media storm of the Day of Jihad propaganda that was spread globally. For those keeping track, that day never happened. But every major account online fueled the fire by stating it as if it were a guarantee to happen. I've been saying this since the day the conflict started. This is not a physical war. It's a psychological propaganda war. Death and killing are happening, yes. And one death is too many, yes. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to divide, to create chaos, not only in the region, but all over the world, in your country, in your state, in your neighborhood. Most people are great, amazing, loving people. Most of us just want to be left alone and live our lives, be free and responsible for our own decisions, provide good lives for our families and loved ones. Stay sharp, level-headed, open-minded, logical, and most importantly, loving. As the propaganda continues to ramp up to another level, just remember, your neighbor isn't your enemy.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
love that. I need that link. That's what I'm feeling. Like that's what I was trying to say at the beginning of the show. I hadn't seen that link.
Yeah.
But
I'll put
yeah, I mean, he must
put
be
it in.
jumping around and looking to see what everybody's saying as well, where he's like, whoa. Because I was in a space when the news broke. And then I went to another one. And what he said there, that was exactly what was happening. But on the one side, they were the ones that said, we've got, we're going to send people in with drones to see how bad damaged the hospital is. And once they did that, then they were able to release it because they were freaked out. But you saw both sides hammering.
Mhm.
And then afterwards, everyone finds out, but the damage is already done and people are already rioting and horrible things are already happening.
And they're
I've watched the
by it. They're
propaganda
handed
develop.
guns.
And you know what? I'll tell you, there's people that are foreign entities that are all through social media that will literally post something to both sides. I've caught them and stirred the nest. They will go to one side and say, I bet it was this, go to the other, say, I bet it was this, then put out a declarative thing and use an old video. And then everyone's already taken off with it. Then they force the press, they force the people on the ground, they force both sides to come out and make a statement. And even before the sides have all the information, well, unless that one side is right there and they could break it down and give information that they're not, but that in itself, the push pull, there are people and entities that start like this tornado that just starts kind of like this and then it grows. And now you have, and I'm not saying the media is innocent. I'm saying I've actually watched individuals on social media get both sides like messed up like a bee's nest, shake it, walk away, get like 10,000 hits on their, on their tweet or on their Facebook page or on their Instagram. And then it just carries all the way through. And now the media is sitting there making declarative statements because they think they have a video. And this one thinks they have this because they want to be the first one, because everyone's calling saying, what are you doing? Why aren't we hearing about it? You're trying to lie for this administration, or you're trying to lie for this, or you're a shill for this country, or you're a shill for this. And so they all jump up there to try to react, and they still don't have the information. And then voila. And there's those same entities that have integrated themselves within our politicians and within our media, within our, our press. And like, this is a real thing. And watching some of these big players and how some people's social media, it like gets thousands of hits, and people who have better information get like 2 hits. I've literally watched someone who gave all the details, stats, like pictures, everything documented on, and got it out there first, 2 likes. And then the one who is all BS that first 12 hours, 10,000, 30,000, 100,000. So
it's the wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrestling match versus like the class, like some really kind of boring class or something. It doesn't have to be boring, but
rules for
drama
journalists. Yeah, journalists had rules that you had to double check your sources, and you had to have more than one source. And there were professional journalists, and they studied how to be journalists. And then they fired them all, and there are none left. And all we have are our citizen journalists who don't know all the rules, but are trying to bring those ideas back. Look at the metadata.
Well, they can't stop age-old conversations, because conversations have been going on and on. And now people realize that, or, a lot of people realize that if you can't trust this main information coming at you, you need to talk to people. Who do you talk to? It depends on who you are and who you come in contact with. Try to talk to everybody. Ask questions, or just, or be open, because that we all have little pieces. And when a lot of people have watched tons of movies, tons of Hollywood, tons of scripted things. Well, you have to, people just have to get their mind around, okay, these people in Hollywood, in order to be a good actor, they really get into it, okay? And so that follows over into the news. So people, I think even those of us that know, we've only seen a small little backdrop of like the scripting that they have put and called it news. I meant it's like a S show, okay, all over the place. There's crazy stuff that is just like they're faking life, they're faking incidents, and we know this. And so I think suspending judgment is always the way to go when things like that.
Here's what's funny. So you know how people get really upset when they have that cynical friend that no matter what news comes out, they're like doubting it, or they're like, well, and they're looking for that we have to have those people, right? We have to have those people that question everything. And sometimes when your heart is in something and that this is the right way to go, the most important person is the cynic. The most important person is the one who comes in and goes, but remember, so-and-so or this entity used to do this. We have to be cautious of this. And remember, they know this. And a lot of times, especially within like research groups or people that are working together to solve an issue, everyone tries to cancel the cynic. They try to say, you doubt everything. No. Even if it's hard, like I will set that cynic here. This is the cynic table. And the cynic table is an important table. So before I get all, rip roaring ready to go, and I'm like, yes, and I start to cheerlead, let me check in with the cynic table. And let me make sure I dotted on my I's, I crossed on my T's, because sometimes the cynic is there not to change your mind, but to get you to say, I know what they're capable of because they've done it before. So I know what to look for. These are the patterns. If they have not changed, these are the behaviors you will see. Look to see if you can connect this. If not, and they've actually grown and they're starting to make wiser decisions, then just, I was wrong, and the cynic moves on. And the cynic is always bouncing around, because that's an important thing. Ask yourself. And every research group should have 2 or 3. and they should not always see eye to eye. There should
Well, you
always
know-
be like a difficulty between the cynics. It's so
Yeah.
important because you don't
And
get
it
the
shows,
truth.
it's like math when you have to show your work. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you have the answer, but show your work. And that's what the cynic is for. So that if somebody gets challenged, why do you have prepared in your mind? Why do you believe this? Break it down for yourself, you know?
Yeah, and what I find is a lot of times we try to push away things that are super important, and because a lot of times when our mind is made up, we are correct. Our assessment is true. It is right. But when you get used to it because you're in tune with your environment, you're in tune with what's happening, you can see the matrix, right? You cannot get cocky. So you can't see and know this is going to happen. Like I knew they were going to lock down. I knew going into Iraq and Afghanistan was not a good idea. So I can't then say, but I know. And I just understand better than everybody else. That cynic is supposed to make you go, oh, well, no. And you've got to look at yourself. When you get upset at the cynic, walk straight over to the mirror, look at yourself and say, why am I upset about what they said? You'll get to know yourself better, but then you can make sure that your gut feeling that you should trust is doing you right, or has your emotion taken over? Did you hear a sad story the other day? Is a friend of yours going through a struggle and you're associating your feelings and just the impatience of wanting to hurry, and this person just keeps lagging? So, but there are absolutely cynics and people that just try to destroy, any kind of truth. But I'm just saying, before you think that the cynic is not good, I would ask you to please reevaluate it. Put them on their own table in their own box. You're never going to be able to catch up with them because they're looking, pointing out. This is important. And then everyone else comes at it honestly with their heart open, looking for the truth and presenting with hope and love and patience. But please, everybody has to have patience for the cynic. I mean, it's just that it's necessary for it's a check on our egos is what I'm trying to say. It's a very important check for our egos.
Well, to take it back a little to the health stuff, I had another link that was JJ Cooey and Dr. Lee. And the point they're making really goes to the Amish issue that we were talking about earlier, too, that less is more when it comes to this stuff. And it's sort of JJ Cooey waking up to what's really happening with the vaccine. It's a 4 minutes, I think. You can blip through the first sort of advertisement, the first 15 seconds, all that stuff you don't need. Yeah, just go to him. Oh, we can't hear it.
Okay, one moment. Give me just a
One
moment.
moment, please.
Tyrone has such a deep voice. One moment.
I love it. We have our man in the house.
It's resonance.
Okay, I think we should be good now.
But okay, so the string theory. When you get a COVID infection, you have spike on the virus. You're going to form antibodies to the top, right? When you are given free spike, you're going to form antibodies to the top, to the bottom, to the side. The spike antigen has multiple antigenic sites. So now
It's even worse. I can't wait to add to this. Keep going.
Now you have a person who has an antibody to the bottom, and he has an antibody to the top, and you give him a booster 3 months later. You give him a booster. This is what happens. There's only 3 components. You have an antibody to the. Let me do it right. An antibody to the.
He's got an antibody magnet. I can't believe it.
You have the spike now. The bottom is visible. The antibody sticks to that. But there's another arm.
Oh, here he
You
goes.
see where I'm going with this?
Here he goes. I see clotting.
Oh my God, you saw it.
Now I
You're
see
really
it already.
fast.
Yeah.
Now, the other arm, right? Now the top is visible, right? Now
Yes.
the antibodies. Is it going to stop?
No, this is also what Sukrit Bhakti said. This is a disaster indeed. It's just a giant matrix of shit.
So this is what I call the string theory.
Yes.
Because in a natural infection, you're not going to form antibodies to the bottom. And so even if it does form to the bottom, you can't have one antibody bind to two virus particles because the virus is too big. But when the antigen is smaller, you can have the antigen act as glue to the slightly different antibodies because you're going to have different populations of antibodies that form. Now, the amazing thing about this, Jay, you haven't read it before, right?
No.
So you see what happens with this? Half the vaccines on Earth, their main effect is to form long strands of antibodies. And then you'll get a meshwork. And then once you have this meshwork, platelets get caught in it. Every FC region, activates FC receptors on a platelet. And then half the vaccines on Earth have this exact same issue. So children, before their age of 4, have 20 booster vaccines. 10 of those can replicate this scenario. If you form this meshwork of antibodies and antigen in a child, in a blood vessel that goes to their amygdala, the part of the brain that controls rage and memory and emotional responses, you're going to have a personality change. And that's your autism.
So, hello?
So stressful.
So
This
get
is-
this. That's Dr. Lee. I've been in tons of spaces with him. He's great. I follow him on X or Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter to me.
Yeah.
And, I've followed him through the whole thing. He knew exactly why the COVID vaccine didn't work, how the antibodies didn't perform the way they were supposed to, and how the lung, there's such a lung barrier that no matter if you do get the jab, it's not able to penetrate the lung. So it does nothing for the lung. And so it could, because it's too big to get into that area. So he's broken it down in such a way that's amazing. And Dr. Lee he gets thrown off of Twitter or X, and he gets kicked off constantly. And he has to get a new account. And then he goes in and he starts to yell at other doctors. And he's like, you're a shill. You're doing this. You're doing that. You're missing the point. Here you are lying. And if I know this, I know you know this because you specialize in this. What are you doing? And then he gets kicked out. He gets booted. People say, I'm not going to go on stage if Dr. Lee's there. And it's so funny.
Talk about
Carol, you're
censorship,
on mute.
though.
He's promoting vaccine hesitancy, but clearly when you listen to what he's saying, that's what we all need to realize. The Amish have it right. Our bodies can do it. And we have hygiene now. When vaccines started, we had bad water, we didn't have sewers, and now we do. So it's time to get rid of these things. All they do is make money and not be tested. And
Carol, you would love him. He's so we're nice. We're not going to pop off. But because he's in the medical field and he gets on these stages with the doctors, he does not hold back. And I've caught myself going, oh, and Dr. Fleming saying, I'm not going to be on this space. And he was like, yeah, go earn your charity money. Go ahead. Go. Let's see. Are you saying these things that you should know? And he's like, don't bring me back on here if he's going to be here. And it's sometimes he comes in and will bombard, and the person co-hosting may not know that some of these doctors have said, I will not be on a space with him. And he just comes in like a rabid dog and they run. And he was like, he's lying. This. And everyone's like, whoa. But yeah, he's great. He's great. He's the Senate. He's the guy who comes in and takes everyone's head out of the sand and makes the doctors Like you can tell the doctor's like, I didn't look at it that way. I'm not going to say I agree. I haven't looked at the documentation or the literature, and they want all this stuff so they can still ignore it, right? And he's like, of course, when it's basic science. Yeah, yes. Let me write down a basic sentence structure that you should know as a scientist. It's so funny. It's so funny.
I'm so glad that there are people like him, because the other ones that are trying to dog on him, they are disgusting. They're disgusting people. How horrible to take an oath and to act like you're going to help people, and then to not even have the scientific brain to have a conversation. That is so ignorant. I can't.
Oh, and they run. They last maybe a couple minutes. Then they start to interrupt Dr. Lee, and he gets mad. He's like, excuse me, how are you going to say what I'm talking about? Doesn't make sense when you haven't heard what I'm saying. And it is like, you catch yourself being like, oh my gosh, because you're nervous. It's like you said it because you want to say stuff like that, and you're afraid like something bad is going to happen. But then it makes the other person recoil and run. So that aggression actually paid off. And you're like, well, oh, yes. All right, get him. And you're like, get him.
You have to have the defenses. You have to be ready to knock somebody right off. You're not blocking my path. I don't think so, pal.
Oh, he's funny too. And like the little quirps he says. And it's really great. I think you lady, the next time I see him in his face, I'm going to send it to our little chat. So that way you can get a taste of how like he does not hold back. It's amazing. But the fact that he did those magnets, JJ Cooley's right. That's just, he used to sit in his car on his breaks when he was working to do spaces. And he would like, you could hear him open the car door, sit, say, I've got 25 minutes, leave, like jump on. And people would actually text him to get him in there to go against what a doctor was saying, because the doctor was telling other doctors, you don't know what you're talking about. And he would come in and set them all straight, and they would get frustrated.
Well,
Carol, you're on
Carol,
mute.
you're muted.
Unmuted. Okay. I was just going to say, if you need to get going in an hour, there's a great little citizen journalist outtake that I have. Audi, what do you call it? But
Audi
did you?
5,000
Outtake.
yeah.
Audi.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited about this, Carol. Can't wait.
Okay, one moment.
Yeah,
And,
I haven't
what's
heard
the person's
this either.
name?
So I'm good.
I don't know what her name was, but she sent it to George. She did it for citizen journalism, and it's really great. It's the top one, or maybe the bottom one I sent. It says Nola. Yeah, here she is.
All right,
Yeah.
you want to talk a little bit more after this, right?
Well,
Sure.
she said she wanted to be done in an hour, so that's why.
Well, you guys can stay on. I'll jump off, but you guys please stay on so that you can finish the rest of your clips. But I want to see this before I head out.
Okay.
I'm at I can explain mine probably in a shorter, then we can watch it. But yeah, that would be easy.
All right, here we go.
Citizen journalist, tell me, do you listen to George Webb and his greeting all the citizen journalists? Aren't you fed up and bored by the misinformation media? I am.
Plus, I'm French, so it's not easy. So please go to listen to George Webb on the Substack or here in X or both. His team works all around the world, so we're all concerned. Thank you.
Who is that?
Wow.
I love her
From
voice.
the French team. We have a French team, and I'm not sure which one she is, but she's met him in France, and it was really fun to have a German member too come in and tell
I
us.
see your
ex-
cat.
also,
I see
she's
your
a
cat.
songwriter
Yeah,
and a singer. So if you're curious, I can show you her Twitter if you want to follow her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
I'm gonna jump off, and you ladies, I'll see you guys later. And bye,
Yeah, this is that
Tyrone.
lady's Twitter right here.
Oh, no comply. Okay.
It got
Okay,
kind
awesome.
of a funky spelling though.
Yeah, she spelled citizen in an interesting way. I like that.
All right, ladies, bye, and bye, Tyrone.
All right, night,
Bye.
Amber. Have a good night. Mwah.
All right, you
Love
too.
you. Bye. Citizens turn to live.
I loved her accent. She was great.
Wonderful. See, that's my favorite thing about New Orleans. It's like, that's why I'm not surprised that I know people are waking up all over, but when you were saying people waking up in New Orleans, like, I just imagine it having an extra sense of like communication and beat and kind of like,
Mhm.
you know, because it's so, the vibe down there is so kind of like open to the flow of things.
Well, they say places like New Orleans and Tennessee had like a certain type of energy center, and that's what
Right.
brought a lot of the. That's where a lot of the music just came out of, and they saying it's just
Yeah.
because that energy was there for it to happen.
That's right. That's why
Like
it's the Delta
Nashville, too.
Blues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Delta Blues.
Yeah, there's
Exactly.
lots of great music. I mean, even just going out a few blocks away and walking from where we were staying, it would just be rocking. Just little grocery stores and stuff, but you'd hear this wonderful music just
Yes.
on the street.
yeah.
It's-
During COVID, it was kind of hard, because you
Mhm.
couldn't even go out on the street to play music, and a lot of people just do that as their living. So they told a
Yeah.
lot of people you couldn't do the thing you've been doing for 20, 30 years. And they maybe had to go get a day job if they could get one. But
Yeah, I think it was an assault on the creative economy for sure. That really got knocked out. People who had built little businesses that they loved to do using their creativity, and that was hurt first.
Did you guys see recently? There was like, well, I saw it recently, like AOC or something. A tweet came out from her. They showed from her like around 2020, and she was like, "We can't open up businesses now because it will make like Trump look too good." Blah blah blah. So she's like sitting there blatantly being like, "We need to keep people shut down." Like it's
Yeah,
just
hurting people.
the nerve of these people is just, well, you know what, it's been a really good like weeding out situation, you know what I mean, where you're just like, there's been so many tests and tests and tests thrown in every direction, and so whatever angle you want to analyze it, you can get a real solid opinion on people. Certain people.
did you want to speaking of politics, did you want to get into your clip?
Well, sure. And I've been busy all day, so what can you guys tell me? Who is this speaker person and what's going on? Was he elected now?
I think there is somebody elected, but I didn't have enough time to figure out.
Yeah,
I never
I
heard of
didn't
him,
It might
so
be
I don't know.
Emergency
What?
thing go on. Hold on one second. I can find out.
Right now? We got the flag upside down. So yeah, so my clip was just Josh Hawley, who was speaking with someone, I'm not sure her name or her position, but he was just like blanket telling her, hey, this is what you're involved in. I don't want to hear your such and such rhetoric. And it was pretty dang good. Do you guys? It was like, it's like almost 7 minutes, but I was like, quickly, I was like, I think it's all important, but I don't know.
Here, I'll share it right now.
Okay. Carol, oh. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Marcos, can I just start with you? You testified a moment ago to Senator Butler that every child gets a Know Your Rights presentation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that before or after you release them to labor traffickers?
Senator, every child that comes into our care gets a Know Your Rights presentation, as well as...
Have you read these New York Times reports, these stories, the series of stories the New York Times has done on the children who are in your care? Have you read them?
Yes.
Have you read that children are scrubbing dishes? They are operating heavy machinery. They are delivering meals. They are harvesting coffee. They are working construction. They are working as housekeepers. They are working overnight shifts at plants where they are not paid. They are not going to school. They are not cared for. They are not giving meals. Almost all of it illegally. Are you aware of that? That's a yes or no.
Yes.
Do the Know Your Rights presentation help them in those situations?
Senator ORR.
That's a yes or no, I think. Do you really think that you're helping these children by releasing them to labor traffickers and, yes, sex traffickers? 85,000 children whom you have no contact with, and your answer is we gave them a presentation before we turned them over to these people who are exploiting them on a scale not seen in this country for 100 years, a century. A century. It's a disgrace in the United States of America. Let me ask you this. You did an audit, I noticed, where you gave yourself a clean bill of health. So just tell me this. Do you require sponsors to document their relationship with the child?
Senator, we have a thorough vetting process.
Do you
in
require
which-
sponsors to document their relationship with the child?
Yes, we go through.
No,
a
you do not.
process.
You do not. Have you read the Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations reports on your office? There was one in 2016. There was one in 2018. There was one in 2020. There was one in 2022. Spanning administrations, what they found is you do not require sponsors to document their relationship with the child. You release them anyway. What about background checks? Do you require background checks on all adults in the household?
In cases where the child is being released to their parents, we do not require background checks. But Senator, I would
Do you
really
require
like,
background checks on all adults in the household in any case?
Yes, in some cases we do.
What percentage of cases do you do background checks on the adults in the household?
I don't have that number.
You do home visits in all cases? You can actually see where these children are being released, whose care you're putting them in?
We do not do home visits in all cases. Senator, I'd really like the opportunity to talk about what we are doing.
I know what you're doing, and it's incredibly and totally inadequate. And we can read about it in the New York Times. Since you say you've read it, let's talk a little bit about that New York Times report, if we could. Here's a quote from the April 17th installment. Again and again, veteran government staffers and outside contractors told HHS, including reports that reached the secretary, that children appeared to be at risk. Did you warn the secretary that children were at risk?
Senator, I'm in regular contact with the secretary. and
Did
the
you warn him that children were at risk?
Safety and well-being of children is our top priority.
Did you warn him that children were at risk?
I'm not going to get into the conversations I've had.
You're
with the
here and you're under
secretary.
oath, and this is an oversight hearing. And we need to know what you're doing because you're manifestly not doing your job. Did you warn him
Senator,
that children were at risk? Do you believe that children are at risk? Let's start with that.
Yes.
Okay. Did you warn the secretary?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics of my conversation, but I would like the opportunity.
Why
to
wouldn't
talk
you
about-
warn the secretary that children were
I
at
would
risk?
like the opportunity to talk about what we.
Let's
are
look at what the
doing.
secretary said to you. The other one, James. Yeah, that one. At least 5 HHS staff members said they were pushed out after raising concerns about child safety. Mr. Becerra, that's the secretary, told the ORR director, that's you, right? That if she could not increase the number of discharges, he would find someone who could. And then he went on to say that if Henry Ford had run his plants like this, he would never have become famous and rich. This is not the way you do an assembly line. Get the kids out, run them through, get them out to those sponsors, those traffickers. Why didn't you resign when he said this? Do you think that this is morally acceptable?
Senator, I joined ORR in September of 2022. I believe that was reported prior to my arrival, but I cannot.
This is
speak
from
to-
an article this year.
I can't speak to what the secretary.
Do you think that this is
Yes, sir.
acceptable to run ORR like an assembly line and to release these children
I
to
can assure you, we
traffickers?
do not run ORR like an assembly line. The safety and well-being of children is our top concern. And by
Plainly
statute-
not. Plainly, it is not your top concern because you have managed to lose 85,000 of them. And the Times knows where they are, or 2/3 of them, and they're with labor traffickers. It's unbelievable. Let me just ask you this. How many kids right now, the 430,000 approximately, unaccompanied children have crossed the border under this administration? It's an astounding number. How many are you in regular contact with right now?
Senator, we have a number of different providers across the country. Who
But what's the
provide
number? What's the
different-
number? How many of you are you in? You said child welfare is your top concern. What's the number?
I don't have the specific numbers.
How can you not know? Why
Because-
would you come to this hearing and not know?
Respectfully, if you would like us to provide comprehensive case management to children after they're released from our care, so we can report.
Respectfully,
exact-
I would like you to do your job and not release children to human traffickers. Respectfully, that's what I would like. I'd like you not facilitate the largest child trafficking ring in American history. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And there it is. Yeah, so
I doubt they're going to lay down any charges, though.
well, you know, it's the people have to become aware of this stuff. Like we have to be aware, you know, and it's like, yep, none of us have a lot of faith in, you know, many portions of the government, whatnot, but it's like we need to drive this ship out of like hellholes, you know what I mean? Like we can't allow our functioning to do this. And so, you know, I think that until a problem can really be targeted, just, you know, spreading the information. And like, yes, between the health stuff and the trafficking stuff and all this other stuff, it's like a lot to deal with. It is. And, you know, I always talk about to you guys and everyone, it's like our angels are such a big army of helpers. Okay. And me personally, just even like we're talking about, oh, do this to help. Sometimes you just got to be like, I'm overwhelmed. I need to just kick back and pray and just see what is right for me. You know what I mean? Because that's part of the whole balance is just being like, you don't want to just turn into like a nervous top. You want to like be like, get grounded, you know, any prayer that is, you know, for our own personal stuff can be extended like right around the globe and just right back to your heart. You know what I mean? So it's throughout these hard times, we need to really like take all the angles, you know, if they can talk about it and put it in the permanent record, you know, something like that. Great. But we need more and more people to just choose the topic. You know, that's what we can say to people. You choose the topic and we'll talk about it. It's fine.
Yeah, well, I think that's the challenge of the issues with the propaganda that we're facing, or the limited ability to have actual discussions, you know, and she didn't get much chance to speak because he was so upset, but there was plenty to be really upset about. So it's,
Well, she was kind of avoiding the questions.
yeah, she
Anyway.
was. Hmm.
Just like he was saying she's under oath, but she wouldn't talk about a conversation. Maybe
Yeah.
that would put her at some
And why
liability
didn't
if
why didn't
warn
she
them.
bring the statistics
know.
with her? She knew she was
Yeah.
coming to the hearing.
You could tell
Clearly.
she's lying through her teeth. Like she looks like she really doesn't want to be there, you know.
Right. Right. I mean, there's so many people that have just been, for whatever reason, like sucked into being minions, you know,
Mhm.
and when it's, you know, say things do come down to like a military tribunal type thing, that'll be the analyzation. Like, what is the intent? Are you just like too fearful to like stand up for yourself, too jaded to like he said, quit right then? You know what I mean? But those people really do have to get weeded out. I'm not saying I know about this woman, but they really do have to get weeded out from the people that have like twisted, evil intent, you know, and are like calling the shots. And the rest of the people just need to, you know, we need to have more. I think I've said before, it's like people that just want to be told what to do. It's like they'll just move on to the next person that tells them what to do. They're not thinking it up. Like, you know, they're not overanalyzing it, whatever.
But ladies, we're over an hour now, so
Yeah.
Well,
you
thanks
have any
for
final
playing
thoughts
my
before we-
clip.
Yeah, no problem. But any final thoughts before we get out of here?
There's
Carol?
plenty to do. Plenty to do. But we're plugging away. We're rowing our boats. We're one step in front of the next and spreading the word. That's all valuable.
And well, I love the girl who's singing. And so I think, you know, everyone keep that beat in their soul, sing your own song or rock it out however it comes out. And, you know, we can make beautiful melodies all together.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things Amber said is, you know, we really do all want the same things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we got to figure out how to have that conversation so we can figure out who is has otherwise plans for us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Talk
And
to
it
your
all
neighbors.
circles down to the same dang people.
Mm-hmm. It sure does. We're seeing that over and over again. Generations of the same dang people doing the same dang thing. Yeah.
All right, guys, talk to your neighbors. Stay informed. Check your sources.
Yeah. Those are all
Bingo.
good takeaways, Tyrone. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Tyrone. Thank you so much for bringing it.
All right, you're welcome, and thank y'all for being on the show with us today.
Okay, we'll see everybody next time. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend. Wee,
Okay,
eek,
bye.
eek,
Eek, eek, eek, eek.
eek.